Do mollies need aquarium salt? Searching online, you'll see both yes and no. Today I want to talk through both sides of the answer and add in my own experience keeping mollies over the past 2 years. Hi there, Connor here. So I want to answer one question today in this video, and it's if mollies need salt in their water. And the answer is a bit nuanced. You'll find sources online and videos on YouTube that say both yes and no, and some in the middle. And I will say that the answer is somewhat in the middle. Overall, it really depends on the water that the molly was raised in for the majority of their life up until the point when you get it. So I will say before we get into the actual answer, I'm not a molly expert. My quick experience keeping mollies is I've been keeping them for about 2 years. They were the first fish I got when I got back into the hobby. I got black and silver mollies from PetSmart, and they did good for a while, but after 3 to 4 months, they got wasting disease where they started to just get real skinny, and then eventually it passed away. Eventually I moved them to their own quarantine tank and used General Cure and some aquarium salt, and eventually they recovered, and then they had offspring, and so today I have offspring of the black and silver mollies. Eventually they kept breeding and I got too many, so I ended up rehoming a bunch, and then I eventually kept them with fish so that the population stayed in control. And today I keep them in full freshwater. The hardness is between 12 to 14 degrees hardness and pH right around 7.4. All right, so now let's get back to the question, do mollies need salt? And so there's two sides of this. There's no, they don't need salt, and yes, they do need salt, and you'll see answers for both. First, for why they don't, why people say they don't need salt. They live in the wild, both in freshwater and in brackish water. And brackish water, if you don't know, is a mix of freshwater and saltwater. It's not enough salt to be considered full of saltwater that you would get in the ocean, but it has a lot more salt than you would find in a normal freshwater body. So here, it's clear that some mollies don't need it because in the wild they live in fully freshwater. And to add on to that, there are many examples of keepers who keep them in full freshwater, myself included. And this is the reason why you'll see a lot of people on forums or in YouTube videos say outright they just don't need salt because their mollies have done fine for many years in fully freshwater, and that's kind of that side of it. Now for the other side where they would need salt, as I said before, some live in freshwater and some live in brackish water in the wild. Now if you took one that was living in brackish water in the wild for the whole life and you put it right in the freshwater, it would probably at least need some acclimation. It probably wouldn't do well right away. Also the reason, and this is a large reason why people think that they do need brackish water or some salt in the water, is there are breeders who raise them in brackish water. This is most common on the eastern side of the world in eastern countries, especially ones that are close to the sea, because it's cheaper for them to get salt water than it is fresh water. So if they can use brackish water for certain species of fish, such as mollies who tolerate it, then it just makes sense because it's cheaper to raise them up and makes more profit. So with those two sides to answer the question, I kind of want to give my personal summary and how I would approach it going forward. So really the question you want to ask when you're getting mollies is, how have they lived the majority of their life? Has it been in brackish water or has it been in freshwater? If it's been freshwater, no problems. You can keep them in your freshwater tank, in your community tank. If they have been raised in brackish water, then with at least some salt, they'll probably do much better. And in freshwater, they might run into health conditions down the road. I'll also add that water parameters do matter for them. They're a fish that's known for doing better in harder water with a higher pH. Generally, what I've seen recommended online is water hardness between 15 to 30 degrees general hardness, a pH of over 7. And if you do have soft water and lower pH, salt or crushed coral will definitely help with that. So then the question is, how do we know where our mollies come from when we're getting them at the store? So what you can do is you can ask the store. Hopefully they'll know. I would just ask them if you know the country of origin that they came from, that they're bred in. Maybe they'll know, maybe they won't. It really depends who's working. It depends on the store. Also, if you're shopping for them online, it might be an easier way to find out. You can just email the websites and I'm sure some will get back to you. Also, there's some websites that will just tell you outright. One I know is Consolidate Fish Farms, but what they actually do with all their fish, at least when they know it, is they put the country of origin. And so that's definitely beneficial, especially for mollies. But you'll see even on the website, they have some that come right from the US, that are bred in the US, and then some that are bred in Singapore. And if you look at Singapore on a map, it's on the eastern side of the world and it's right next to the ocean. So, I'd say there's a good chance that they were bred and raised in brackish water. And then another option is just to find local breeders, whether you're finding them on Whether you're finding them at fish swaps, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, wherever you can find them, then they'll probably be breeding them in complete freshwater, and I'm sure you can ask them as well. Now, if you don't know, either you already have mollies or the store doesn't know, or you got an answer from the store and it didn't really seem like the person knew, it seemed like they were almost kind of guessing. What I would personally do is when you get them, I would set up a quarantine tank. Always recommended for any fish you get, but I'd say especially important for mollies. You can kind of take two approaches with this. The first approach is you can try them without salt, see how they do over a month. And if they start developing any problems, then add some salt and kind of see if they improve from there. The other option is you could just start the quarantine tank with salt, and you could either plan to keep them in brackish water the whole life, or you could wean them off the salt and then see how they do. I personally would start them with kind of a low to moderate amount of salt and see how they do. You could do full brackish, but if they were raised in fresh water, it might be too harsh. So what I'd probably do is either 1 tablespoon for 5 gallons or 1 tablespoon for 3 gallons and see how they do. And then, you can wean them down off of that over water changes over weeks. Now, if you know that they definitely were raised in brackish water, it might be best just to raise the salt up, maybe on the lower range of that, because I'm sure if they were in a fish store, they might have been without salt for a little while. But one thing you can do is if you do have mollies that were raised in brackish water and they do breed and have fry, once they have fry, you can pretty quickly change out the water over a week or so to get them down to almost fresh water. And you can just have a batch of mollies living in fresh water and have them breed and have a chain of mollies that are good to go in fresh water for the rest of their life and future generations. But I did want to wrap it up here. The final kind of conclusions of everything to summarize is that whether they need salt or not depends on the water they were raised in. They definitely do better in harder water versus softer water. If you can find out the origin of them, what country they originated in, that's the best bet to find out if they need salt or not. And if they were raised in brackish water with salt, once they have offspring, you can raise them in fresh water pretty easily. So you can get your own generation going in full fresh water. So that's the end here. I want to thank everyone for watching. I know there's opinions on both sides, so if anyone does disagree, I'd love to hear. And just any thoughts on this topic in general. And if you thought this video was helpful, likes on it are appreciated. And anyway, I'll catch everyone next time.